Names and locations have been changed for privacy reasons. Elijah Johnson adjusted his collar for the 10th time. He stood outside the mirrored doors of Jackson Freight Solutions, wiping invisible dust from his only button-down shirt. It didn't fit perfectly, too tight around the shoulders, too long in the sleeves, but it was clean, and that's what mattered. Act confident. Don't slouch. Smile just enough, but not too much, he reminded himself. The job wasn't glamorous. Entry-level warehouse coordinator. But it paid better than anything he'd found in the past 6 months. And more importantly, it came with stability, something he hadn't known since Mikey. The lobby smelled like lemons and printer ink. 2 receptionists glanced at him, then looked back down without a word. He sat on the edge of a black leather chair, hands folded like a student waiting to be called into the principal's office. A man in his 40s, white, in a fitted blazer, finally called out, "Mr. Johnson." Elijah stood up, smiled, extended a hand. The man shook it lightly, already turning toward the hallway. "Come on back." The interview was going well, at first. Elijah spoke clearly. He talked about his organizational skills, how he helped run inventory at his cousin's mechanic shop, how he was willing to learn and work overtime. The interviewer nodded, typing something on his laptop. Then it happened. The collar of Elijah's shirt slipped slightly to the left, revealing the edge of a tattoo just above his collarbone. It was simple, one name, written in black ink, Mikey. The man paused. Stared. And something shifted. His tone changed. The follow-up questions became shorter. Mechanical. Finally, he leaned back, folded his arms. "So, tell me about the tattoo." Elijah hesitated. "It's personal," he said. "That's so," the man said, then gave a half-smile that didn't reach his eyes. "All right. Well, we've got a few more people to see. We'll call you. We'll call you." 3 words, but he'd heard them too many times to believe them. He forced a polite smile, shook the man's hand again, and walked out. As he reached the exit, he passed a glass office. The door was slightly ajar. Inside, he heard one of the HR reps mutter. "Neck tattoo? Yeah, he won't last a week. Those guys always come with baggage." Elijah stopped. Not because he was surprised, he wasn't, but because it still stung. "You don't even know me," he wanted to shout. "You don't know what that name means. You don't know what I've seen, what I've survived." Outside, the afternoon sun was harsh and unforgiving. Elijah sat on the curb next to the bus stop, head down. He pulled out his phone. No new calls. No offers. Just a notification from the local news. 3 years since 12-year-old Michael Johnson was shot by police. Internal investigation ends with no charges. Mikey. His baby brother. Wrong place. Wrong hoodie. Wrong time. And now, just a name on his neck that scared people away. He took a shaky breath and typed a message into his phone, not to send, just to get it out. "You didn't die for nothing, Mikey. I'll make them see you. I'll make them hear." Elijah didn't sleep that night. He lay on his worn-out mattress, staring at the ceiling, scrolling through job listings with one hand and holding Mikey's old hoodie in the other. The same one the cops said looked suspicious. As if fabric had intent. The rejection still burned in his chest, not just the job, but the way that man looked at him. Like a risk. Like a ticking bomb. All because of ink. Around 2 a.m. Elijah opened his notes app. He started typing. Not for anyone. Just for himself. But somewhere between the 4th and 5th sentence, something changed. The words felt louder than his phone. Sharper than silence. He copied the text, opened his socials, the one he barely used, and posted it. Mobile phone the post. "I didn't get the job today. Not because I was late. Not because I didn't try. I wore my only good shirt. Answered every question. Smiled when I was supposed to. But I have a tattoo on my neck. It says, Mikey. That's my little brother. He was 12 when police mistook him for someone else. He was holding a toy. They thought it was a weapon. I got the tattoo so no one would forget him. But now, when people see it, they don't ask. They assume. Today, someone looked at that tattoo and saw a threat. I just wish they saw a brother. He put his phone down, face hot with emotion. Maybe no one would read it. Maybe that was for the best. He drifted off sometime before dawn. The next morning, his phone wouldn't stop buzzing. 5 likes. 12 shares. 27 comments. Then it turned to hundreds. By noon, the post had 10,000 retweets. People started tagging news outlets. Activists. Public figures. Someone made a graphic with Mikey's name in soft blue letters, over a candle. Elijah's hands trembled as he read the comments. Speech balloon, this broke me. I'm so sorry. Speech balloon, I work in HR. This is why we need bias training. Speech balloon, I have a tattoo for my sister. People stare at it like it's a crime. Speech balloon, no kid should have to carry this kind of grief. But not all were kind. Speech balloon, maybe don't tattoo your neck if you want a job. Speech balloon, stop blaming everyone else for your bad choices. He stopped reading. It was too much. But then came the message that froze him. Speech balloon, Mr. Johnson, I'm the regional director at Brightpath Logistics. I read your story. If you're still looking for work, we'd like to talk. Elijah stared at the message. Was this real? Before he could respond, another buzz. Then another. A producer from a local radio station wanted to do a segment. A school counselor asked if she could use his post in a lesson about judgment. That night, Elijah walked past the mural on 48th and Dale, the one with all the neighborhood kids who didn't make it past 18. Mikey's face was there now, painted in light and shadow. A man in a patrol uniform stood nearby, lighting a cigarette. Older. Weathered. Looked like he'd seen things he never wanted to. Hey, the officer said, noticing Elijah looking. You knew that kid? Elijah nodded. He was my brother. Silence. Then. I was on duty that night, the man said quietly. I wasn't the one who pulled the trigger, but I remember him. He didn't deserve what happened. Elijah didn't say anything. But for the first time in a long time, he didn't feel invisible. Elijah sat across from the microphone, palms sweaty, trying to remember everything the producer told him 5 minutes ago. Relax. Just be real. Speak from the heart. Easy for her to say. She didn't have thousands of people dissecting her life in the comments. The radio host smiled warmly. So, Elijah, you never meant to go viral, right? He shook his head. I just needed to let something out. I didn't expect anyone to care. The host leaned in, voice soft. Why do you think it hit people the way it did? Elijah paused. Then said, quietly. Because a lot of people know what it's like to be seen for the worst thing about them, even when it's not the truth. The interview was short, 8 minutes, tops. But it aired that afternoon. By sunset, his inbox was flooded again. Some wrote to say thank you. Others shared photos of their own tattoos, for siblings, friends, parents lost too soon. Some teachers even asked if he'd speak to students via Zoom. It felt good. Strange. But good. Until he saw that message. Speech balloon, you think you're a hero? You're just milking your brother's death for clout. Then another. Speech balloon, so now crying on the internet gets you a job. Congrats, victim culture. Elijah stared at the screen. His jaw clenched. He thought he was ready for this. But nothing prepares you for strangers slicing your life open like it's public property. That night, he called his mother for the first time in weeks. She picked up, tired as always. Elijah? Yeah. You got a minute? They didn't talk much anymore. Grief had built a wall between them that neither could climb. But tonight, she listened. He told her about the interview. The job offer. The comments. She didn't say much, just. Let them talk. You carry Mikey different than they ever could. And if some people can't handle seeing a good man with a scar, that's not your fault. A week later, he showed up at Bright Path Logistics for a second interview, this time with the regional director herself. She was direct but kind. I read your post. I also read your resume. We're not hiring you for sympathy. We're hiring you because you're qualified. But I'm not gonna lie, your story made me stop and think. She leaned forward. We all have blind spots. Yours just forced people to look at theirs. He got the job. On his first day, some coworkers gave him side glances. A few whispered when they thought he wasn't listening. But no one said it to his face. Except one guy, mid-30s, quiet, wore steel-toe boots like armor. In the break room, he nodded toward Elijah's neck. That Mikey? Elijah braced himself. Yeah. My brother. The man nodded slowly. My kid's name is Marcus. He's 10. I'd do the same thing. And just like that, the tension eased. But it didn't disappear. Online, the post still made rounds. People debated, dissected, dismissed. Would they hire him if he didn't go viral? Shouldn't he be grateful? Isn't this just another sob story? Elijah stopped reading. He went to work. Came home. Called his mom more often. And once a week, he'd pass that mural of Mikey. Sometimes there'd be fresh flowers. Sometimes a name he didn't recognize had been added to the wall. Too many faces. Too many stories untold. But at least one voice had been heard now. The warehouse buzzed with the usual rhythm, pallets squeaking, forklifts humming, radios playing low. Elijah moved through it all like he belonged. Or at least, like he was trying to. Third week on the job. He came early, stayed late, didn't complain. No one said much, which was fine. Silence beat suspicion. But there was one guy who always had something to say. Travis. Mid-40s. Crew cut. Loud. Thought sarcasm was a personality. It started small. Hey, viral boy. Don't forget to hashtag that box. Or, hope the boxes don't judge you by your tattoo. Elijah ignored it. He wasn't here to win hearts, just to work. But Travis didn't like being ignored. That Friday, the break room was quiet. Elijah poured coffee, focused on staying calm. He felt Travis walk in before hearing him. You ever think maybe you got lucky? Travis said, grabbing a snack bar from the counter. I mean, most guys don't get job offers just for whining online. Elijah didn't answer. Travis leaned against the wall. Nah, really. I'm curious. You think you're special? You think you earned this? Elijah finally turned to face him. I earned it the same way you did. I show up. I work. Travis scoffed. Please. You show up with a pity story and a tattoo. That's not work. That's marketing. The room got colder. Elijah took a breath. He wasn't gonna blow up. That's what people expected. Instead, he looked Travis in the eye. You know what's funny, he said. You think I got here easy. But you wouldn't last a week living where I did. You think a viral post is power? It's not. It's pain on display. And I didn't ask for applause. I asked for a chance. Travis stared at him. Jaw tight. Silent for once. Elijah stepped past him. You want to talk about luck? My brother died for nothing. That's what lucky looks like to you. He left his coffee behind. Didn't need it anymore. That night, Elijah sat on the steps outside his building, hands still shaking. He didn't like confrontation. Never had. But something about today, it hurt. Not because of what Travis said, but because he knew Travis wasn't alone in thinking it. He opened his phone. Notifications, again. One stood out. A message from a stranger. Speech balloon, I work with troubled kids. We read your story in group today. One of my students cried. Said he didn't know adults could hurt too. Elijah stared at it. Sometimes the hate was loud. But the impact, that was quiet. And real. The next morning, Travis didn't say a word. He passed Elijah near the loading dock. No jokes. No sarcasm. Just a slight nod. Elijah didn't nod back. Not out of pride, but because he didn't need to anymore. He was done explaining his worth to people who never asked about the truth behind the ink. Elijah almost didn't open the email. The subject line said, Would you speak to our students? It came from a high school counselor in the city. She'd read his story. Showed it to a few students. Now, she wanted him to visit, to talk about judgment, identity, second chances. He stared at the screen for a long time. I'm not a speaker, he told himself. I'm not polished. I'm not some motivational guy with a headset mic. But something inside him whispered. You weren't a writer either. And they still listened. He replied, yes, before he could change his mind. 2 days later, he was standing in front of 30 high school seniors. The classroom was too quiet. Too bright. Some kids scrolled on their phones. Others leaned back, arms crossed, waiting for something interesting, or for the clock to move faster. The counselor gave him a smile. You can start whenever you're ready. He swallowed hard. Hey, Elijah said. I'm Elijah. No reaction. He kept going. Some of you probably saw my post. Some didn't. Doesn't matter. He tugged at his collar, revealing the name on his neck. This is Mikey. My little brother. A few students looked up. He died when he was 12. Police mistook him for someone he wasn't. Pause. And now, when people see this tattoo, they think they know who I am. But they don't ask. They assume. A girl in the back shifted in her chair. Elijah continued. I came here because I know some of you feel the same. Like no matter what you do, your name, your clothes, where you live, it's already been decided for you. Now they were listening. He talked about the interview. The rejection. The viral post. The mural. But he didn't cry. He didn't shout. He just spoke plainly. Like someone who'd lived it. Then he said. You don't have to be loud to be heard. But you do have to speak. Even when it's scary. When he finished, there was a long silence. Then soft clapping. Then louder. A few students stayed after. Asked questions. Shook his hand. But one kid, quiet, skinny, wore his hoodie up the whole time, waited until everyone else left. He walked up and mumbled, Thanks for coming. Elijah smiled. You're welcome. The boy looked around, then said. They call me Thug 'cause my dad's in jail. I didn't know grown-ups get judged like that too. Elijah felt something twist in his chest. They do, he said. All the time. The boy nodded, pulled his sleeve up, revealing a small tattoo on his forearm. It wasn't finished, just a date. Probably someone he lost. "I got this for my brother," he said. "I thought people would hate it. But now, I kinda want them to ask." That night, Elijah sat in bed, staring at the ceiling again. Same ceiling. Same silence. But this time, he smiled. The phone rang 3 times before she picked up. "Hello." Her voice was the same, tired, distant, but unmistakably his mother's. "Hey, Ma. It's me." A pause. "Elijah?" "Yeah. Just, checking in." Another pause. Then. "You okay?" They hadn't really talked since the post went viral. A few short messages. Love you, here, be safe, there. Nothing real. But tonight, Elijah didn't want small talk. He sat at the kitchen table, staring at the cup of tea he wasn't drinking. "I spoke at a school today," he said. "High school. Seniors. You. A speaker now?" She chuckled softly. "I guess." "What did you say?" "I told them about Mikey. About everything." The line went quiet. He almost regretted saying it. But then she whispered. "That's brave." It caught him off guard. "You think so?" "I know so," she said. He heard her moving around, maybe pacing, maybe just avoiding her own stillness. I haven't said his name out loud in weeks," she admitted. "Feels like if I do, the house remembers too." Elijah said nothing. Just listened. "I see your face in him sometimes," she continued. "When you get quiet, or mad, or when you laugh without showing your teeth." He smiled a little. "He looked up to you, you know," she said. "You were his world. I should have protected him better." Her voice sharpened. "No. Don't do that. You were a kid too. The world failed him. Not you." He swallowed hard. "You don't think I'm making it worse?" he asked. "Talking about it all. Posting. Speaking. What if it just opens everything again?" Another silence. Then she said. "Wounds need air to heal. That's what you're doing. You're letting the world breathe around him." That hit different. He blinked fast. His chest felt full, not heavy. Full. "You're really proud of me?" he asked, like a kid again. She laughed. "Boy, I was proud the day you got your first paycheck bagging groceries." He laughed too. "But this," she continued. "This is different. You're giving Mikey a voice. And you're showing people they don't have to stay quiet about their scars." For the first time in years, Elijah didn't feel the need to explain himself to her. She already knew. Already understood. And she wasn't just his mother anymore. She was his ally. Before they hung up, she added one last thing. "He'd be proud of you too, Elijah." "I know it." Elijah sat there long after the call ended. No notifications. No noise. Just him. And the stillness. And for once, the stillness felt like peace. The letter came in a plain envelope. No return address, just his name written in careful handwriting. Elijah Johnson. Inside was a single sentence. "If you're willing to talk, meet me at the 47th Precinct bench. Sunday. 6 p.m. Signed only. J. Sanders." He knew the name. Officer James Sanders. The man who pulled the trigger. The man who ended Mikey's life. The man he had imagined 1,000 ways, heartless, reckless, cold. But now, Elijah sat on a wooden bench outside the precinct, watching the sky shift from gold to gray, hands clenched together, every nerve alert. Part of him wanted to run. Part of him needed to stay. Footsteps approached. Heavy, hesitant. He didn't have to look up to know it was him. But he did. The man looked older than Elijah remembered. Tired in the bones. Wrinkled uniform. Haunted eyes. "Mr. Johnson," the officer said quietly. Elijah just nodded. Sanders sat down, leaving a respectful gap between them. For a moment, they just sat, strangers connected by a moment neither could undo. "I wasn't sure you'd come," Sanders finally said. "I wasn't either." The officer nodded slowly. Then. "I want to say something. But I don't want to sound like I'm trying to excuse it. I'm not." Elijah said nothing. Just waited. "That night," Sanders began, "we got a call about a robbery suspect. Armed. Running through the alley behind 9th and Clifton." He swallowed. "I was tired. Third shift. Heart racing. Backup still 10 minutes out. I saw movement, someone small, quick. Something shiny in his hand. I shouted. He turned. Sanders looked down at his hands. I thought it was a gun." Silence. Elijah felt the familiar anger rise in his throat. But it wasn't alone anymore. It was tangled with grief, memory, and confusion. "You didn't check," Elijah said. "You didn't give him a second." "I know," Sanders whispered. "I see him every night," he added. "I don't sleep much. My own kid's his age. I can't walk past a toy aisle without feeling it." His voice cracked, just slightly. "I went through the hearings. Cleared by internal. But I wasn't cleared in here." He tapped his chest. "People think cops don't feel. Like we're robots in vests. But every time I see a boy in a hoodie, I see your brother. I hear that moment. I hear the silence after." Elijah finally turned toward him. "You ever say his name?" Sanders nodded. "Mikey. I say it more than I say my own son's." The two men sat in silence again. Not cold. Not angry. Just, still. "I hated you," Elijah said. "For a long time." "I deserve that," Sanders replied. "But I also hated the world that made you scared of a 12-year-old. The officer looked up. His eyes red. "I was scared," he said. "Not because I wanted to hurt anyone. But because I didn't want to die. And that fear, it made me blind." He paused. "And I've been trying to make sense of that ever since." They sat until the sun disappeared behind the station. A single streetlight flickered on overhead. Then Elijah said, quietly. "You took something from me I'll never get back." "I know. But, you didn't walk away from it either. You're here." Sanders blinked hard. "I don't expect forgiveness," he whispered. "I'm not giving it for you," Elijah replied. "I'm giving it so I can breathe again." Sanders nodded, silently. They stood. For a second, it looked like they might shake hands. But instead, Elijah reached into his coat and pulled out a folded piece of paper. A photo. Mikey. Smiling. Holding a toy spaceship. The one he had that night. "I want you to remember him, not the moment," Elijah said, handing it over. The officer took it, hands trembling. "I will." They parted without another word. But something invisible shifted in the space between them. Not healing. Not closure. But something, lighter. Later that night, Elijah stood at the mural again. Mikey's face, lit by moonlight. He looked up and whispered. "I let it go, Mikey. For me. For you. For the man who didn't mean to, but did." He touched the ink on his neck. The name. The story. It would always be there. But it wouldn't own him anymore. End.